Welcome to the EFANI Features series. And today I've got Nick joining us from Casa. And so, Nick, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah, thanks, Mark. My name's Nick. I'm the CEO at Casa, and we help people be secure around their Bitcoin and their crypto without making it too hard to do so.
Awesome. And so it's not everybody that wakes up and says, "Hey, I want to make the next, crypto wallet or the next crypto storage method." And there's some, existing solutions out there. So, what was your journey in terms of how you made the decision to found Casa, and how did you get to where you are right now in terms of where Casa is?
Yeah, so when we started Casa, for me, it was a personal pain point of I'm storing Bitcoin on a hardware wallet. I've got one key, and if I lose this key, I lose all my money. And that just always weighed on me and it just gave me some anxiety, right? And so we created Casa because we wanted to give people a way to not have to be able to self-custody their Bitcoin, but not have to worry so much about, hey, what if I make a mistake? What if this thing gets stolen? All the different things that you have to worry about when you're holding Bitcoin. And so we made Casa to make security simple for people because it really doesn't have to be hard to self-custody your Bitcoin if you have the right tools. And so what we realized was the key um, the key to security for Bitcoin is just removing single points of failure. So
Yep.
most people, they've got a single private key or they've got their exchange account or whatever it is, and that represents a single point of failure that if something happens to that, if they lose it or if a bad actor gets access to it, then all their money's gone. With Casa, instead of just having one key protecting your Bitcoin, you actually have multiple keys protecting one pool of Bitcoin. So it's not like you've got Bitcoin split a little bit on this key, a little bit on this key. No, you've got, as an example, in a 3-key vault with Casa, you've got 3 keys, and you need any 2 of those to actually spend your Bitcoin. And typically one's on your phone, one's on a hardware wallet or like a YubiKey, and one's held by Casa. And so as long as you have 2 of those 3, you can still access your Bitcoin, which means you can lose a key completely or have a key stolen or whatever it is, and then still be able to access your Bitcoin. And so by removing single points of failure, we can really give people more peace of mind around their security, where you can be a human, you can make a mistake, you don't have to be perfect, and you still can secure your money in a very robust way.
Yeah, absolutely. Like when I first got cold storage and it was just like that one key, like it kind of freaked me out. It's like, did
Yeah,
it work? Am I going to be able to access it? What happens if I lose this key? And then, the other problem in this space is, let's say you're married. It's like, if something happens to me, I get in a car accident or something, like, is this gone forever? And what happens
right.
if somebody can't find this key? Now, it's kind of interesting that you're holding a key, and I never really thought about that, but that's actually a cool thing because I guess, for example, like I could take one of my keys and put that in a fireproof, flood-proof safe, and then you have a key, so no matter what happens to me, like it exists in that safe. And then if I had a wife or something, if they really needed to and they couldn't get in the safe, they could hire somebody to get in there. But that's kind of a cool feature. I didn't really think about that.
Yeah, and I mean, that's kind of the base level, but we heard this over and over from customers, that exact thing, like what happens if I'm self-custodying my Bitcoin and I die? And so we actually just a little bit earlier this year released Casa Inheritance, which
Yeah, I saw that.
is
Yeah.
specifically to help people to pass on their Bitcoin in case something happens to them. And one of the things that we learned as we were talking to customers is that scenario that you mentioned, where it's like, I've got this hardware key in a safe that my wife can access in case something happens to me. That actually frees people's wives or spouses or kids out quite a bit, because most of the time there's like one Bitcoin person in the family, and then you've got everybody else who's along for the ride. And So we built Casa Inheritance so that it's very easy to designate somebody as a recipient for your Bitcoin and then set them up with their own account within Casa and allow them to access your vault in case you pass away. And so it's something that people feel like it might be a little bit complicated, but we really made it simple where all your wife has to do, for an example, is just scan a QR code on your phone,
Yep.
and then that transfers to her an encrypted version of your mobile key and stores it in her Casa app. So then if anything happens to you, she can just use that key plus the key that's held by Casa to access the Bitcoin. And that feels really simple and approachable, and like it feels familiar for people. And so that's something that you can't do that if you just have a single hardware wallet. You can only do that in this unique multiple key setup for a vault like what Casa offers.
Yeah, and I can tell you that in the last couple of weeks, I played golf with a guy and just having a business dinner. These two guys, they were probably around 65 to 70 years old each. And so they told me they were into Bitcoin, so which kind of surprised me. I didn't think they would be. And so I asked them how they stored it, and they were using a ledger. And I hope that one of the guys' wife's not watching this, but he basically said that my biggest concern is the inheritance part of it and what
Yeah,
happens to me and how do my, and so it'd go to his wife and his kids. And they didn't want to give another person like his key because he would have
right.
all this Bitcoin that was tied up under this one key. And what happens if that person doesn't store it properly?
Exactly.
And so his solution he was like, do I give one child a piece of it? Do I give my wife a piece of that key and then they can put it together? Which is a very, very clunky solution.
Yeah.
And so when I saw the inheritance on your website, I thought, yeah, I wanted to make sure that was part of the topic because I think that's a big problem that needs to be solved. And it sounds like you
Yeah.
guys you've done it.
Yeah, I mean, it's that setup that you just described is one that we heard a lot from customers. We called it the treasure map setup. It's like, here's the treasure map to access the gold in case something bad happens to me, because you can't just hand somebody a ledger or a seed phrase because of the exact reason that you said. And so this lets them do do something similar to that treasure map setup, but in a way more controlled, usable way that doesn't feel so janky, honestly.
Now, is it an app? Like if I wanted to use
Yeah.
Casa, what would be the first step? I download the Casa app, sign up for it.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. It's a mobile app and very simple to use. Feels like you're using any other well-designed mobile app. And we've really worked hard on that. I think that there's a lot of software in the crypto industry that is pretty confusing and hard to use. And we've really pushed to have simplicity in our design and to make things really understandable for anybody to pick it up and get going. And so it's a mobile app. That's how you manage your keys. That's how you manage the vaults that you set up with Casa. And that's what makes it feel so normal for people who are family members of the main kind of Bitcoin owner, because they're used to dealing with mobile apps all the time. So it's something that has been very comforting for the customers that have set that up since we released it back in April.
Yeah, the QR code's kind of cool as well. So like a lot of people might get intimidated by like what's this big long string of
Right.
numbers and letters and blockchain and Bitcoin, where if you can make it simple, like here's your QR code and hey, call Casa. And between
Yep.
the two of you, you can get the Bitcoin and Ethereum. So it all sounds great. And is it only for Bitcoin and Ethereum?
So it's for Bitcoin, Ethereum, and then Ethereum based assets. So that includes
Okay.
like ERC20, stable coins, staked ETH, that kind of thing.
Okay, great. Okay, so it covers a lot. And
Yeah.
and so in terms of the profile of the people that should be customers, it sounds like it's just really anybody that owns crypto and wants to
Yeah.
secure it.
It's people that are securing crypto for a longer period of time, usually. And in that scenario where you're making a long-term investment into this asset class, self-custody becomes a much more important part of your security model. If you're doing just like trading in and out of things all the time, that doesn't really work well with our product. You're better off just keeping that on an exchange if you're trading every single day. But if you're making a longer term investment where you are dollar cost averaging, or it's kind of set it and forget it from an investment perspective, then self-custody makes sense. And when self-custody makes sense, using Casa makes sense, because Casa is a much simpler yet more robust way for people to self-custody and to ensure that they've got all these different edge cases covered, which we think about for you so that you don't have to be a security expert. We're the security experts. You just do what the product guides you through, and then you get to benefit from that knowledge. And so typically the types of people that we work with are people storing larger amounts of Bitcoin, larger amounts of Ethereum. We have some special purpose memberships that are for larger holders of crypto. And then we also work with people who even just have a little bit. And so we have different kind of security levels and price points that work for that. But I think where we've found people really appreciate this is when they're holding a material amount of Bitcoin that is relevant, is materially relevant as part of their net worth. And so this is where some of the partnership with EFANI comes in too. Like, as you are, the larger your investment in Bitcoin becomes, the more you have to think about your personal security, not just the security of your Bitcoin, but security for all these other areas of your life. And so we help people think through that as well in a very consultative, one-on-one approach. It's like having a financial advisor, but for your personal Bitcoin and cybersecurity. And for us, EFANI was a piece of that, where as a Bitcoin or crypto investor, you become a higher profile target for SIM swaps. And we've seen that with our own customers. We've seen that it's rampant in the industry with, exchange accounts. And so having that protection from a phone number perspective is also really valuable to our customers. And so we actually have that conversation with people. Hey, is this something you're worried about? Here's some ways you can address this security attack vector. EFANI's one of them. And that's something that people really find value in.
Yeah, absolutely. So really any of the cold storage solutions are not meant for like active trading, correct? So it's not that Casa has there's no con of that. It's just that cold storage, hard wallet storage in general is just really meant for like long-term storage. And I always tell people when they ask me, do you use cold storage and what do you keep on exchanges? And so I always tell them that I recommend like a 10 /90, like 90 should be cold storage and 10% on whether it's, some kind of trading platform or online wallet, easy accessible, or whatever amount percentage you plan on like trading with.
Right.
But the rest of
I
it
think
should
it comes
be
down to how much do you want to trade, right? It's like,
Yeah.
it's what do you want to be actively moving in and out of?
Yeah, because the scary thing right now in terms of like all the online exchanges and wallets is these data breaches are just off the charts for the last like 90 days. And in fact, before I got on with you, I actually recorded a video called "Is Data Privacy Dead in the US?" And it talks about all the data breaches that have happened really in the last 90 days. And so all of our data is out there. And so I recommend to everybody, even if you only have like $10,000, use Casa or use whatever solution to store your, 80% of that and play with the rest if you want. But it's just only a matter of time before, some crypto exchange gets hacked. And then some, I had a conversation yesterday with somebody who is the CEO of a financial based company, and they got hacked for millions. And so it was one of the carriers, and they had a voice recognition to bypass to take control of their mobile account,
Yeah.
and the hacker used AI voice,
Yeah.
and so it was the AI was good enough to copy their voice and get them beyond that
Yeah.
recognition and pass.
Yeah.
And so just be aware of this. And so everybody in crypto should be using cold storage. And it sounds like Casa is super easy to use. It fits involving QR codes and things like that. I love the fact that you're storing one of the keys yourself, because even for myself, like if I gave one to like a family member and gave one to you, then I'd have peace of mind.
Yeah.
And that my own family member can't, like screw me over or screw themselves over, because they could always, go to Casa. So
Yep.
that's great. So if they want to learn more about Casa, how would you recommend? Is there like videos, or just going directly to your Casa website?
Yeah, I would start with our website. It's casa.io. And you can also follow me on Twitter. It's at @nneumann, Neuman. And I talk a lot about what we're building at Casa. So that's a way to learn about what we're doing. But our website is a good central point where you can go, you can learn about the technology we use, you can learn about the different features of the product and how we thought about that. Our blog's on there, which talks long form about a lot of this stuff. And then it also links to some videos that actually show setup and what it looks like to use the Casa product. So that's a pretty good like starting point, I would say, is our website.
All right, awesome. So step one, buy some Bitcoin or Ethereum based tokens. Step two is make sure that you have most of it in storage, like on a Casa solution. Step three is secure your mobile service by getting EFANI to make sure you can't get SIM swapped and have your passwords reset, including authenticator apps. My last question to you is that there are some competitors in this space. Is there any feature that you'd like to identify that would make it sort of a no-brainer, or a reason as to why they would want to come to Casa, as opposed to going to other solutions? And would that be the inheritance solution?
Yeah, I mean, I think it really boils down to, I would say, three things. The first, and more of a broader umbrella kind of point here, is that Casa is focused first and foremost and solely actually on security. And some of the other offerings that are out there, they do a lot of other things besides just security. And we are very focused on how do we help you secure your Bitcoin as well as possible. The second here would be inheritance, like you mentioned. This is one of the biggest problems for self-custody, is what happens if I die? And Casa solved this problem really elegantly for people. And then the third is we actually just rolled out a feature where you can use a YubiKey as a key in your multi-sig vault instead of a hardware wallet. And so a lot of the other cold storage options out there, you're using a hardware wallet, which is very secure, but it can be a little more difficult to use. And a YubiKey is actually, I'm trying to find one, see if I have one sitting on my desk here so that I can show it. I don't. A YubiKey is super simple to use.
Yep.
It's something that people already use for other areas of their life, especially if you work at a company that has used YubiKeys for authentication. It's just like plug it in and tap kind of situation. And Casa is the only place right now that you can do this with. And so it is a highly secure, but very approachable, simple way to use a hardware device to get cold storage for Bitcoin key. And that's something that we just released a month ago, and people have been loving, because it makes it so much easier to use hardware devices than a typical hardware wallet, which is where a lot of people have been turning to for cold storage.
I think that's what I'm going to do. Is I'm going to download the Casa app. I'm going to make YubiKey as part of the strategy. So as soon as you said that in the beginning, I thought, okay, that's great, because I intentionally didn't do a lot of research into the details just because it sort of helps me kind of ask questions that other people
Yeah.
don't know about Casa. And so, but when you mentioned that YubiKey, I was already thinking like, okay, that's like perfect for me because I love
Yeah.
YubiKeys. I tell people to use YubiKeys wherever you possibly can. And
Yep.
so that's definitely another step in that people need to add to their defense.
Yeah, they're
So
great for securing a lot of different types of accounts in your life, not just your Bitcoin. So highly recommend using a YubiKey.
yeah, absolutely. So I think we covered most of what I wanted to cover. I really appreciate you being on the EFANI Features series here. And thank you so much for your time. Yeah, I enjoyed it.
Yeah, thank you, Mark. I've been a happy EFANI customer for a couple of years now. You
Oh,
guys have built a
awesome.
great
Awesome.
product. So
All right. That's good to hear.
thank you for what you've built.
All right. Thank you.